morning. We wanted to make sure that we bring this information to you live and direct. I got my good friends here this morning. I'm Jesse Burton here in Houston, Texas. This information is going to be good no matter where you're located. Even though we are here in Texas, we want to make sure that you get this information so that way you can use it to the best of your ability. I'm a real estate professional, commercial agent, as well as residential, but we focus at this point on commercial and assisting doctors, dentists, those in the healthcare professions that are looking to start their own practice. And so we thank you for joining us and paying attention to this information. We ask that you would take some notes and use it. And then if you can find this very valuable to come back and be sure to click our links to get a hold of us because we would love to work with you and assist you moving forward so that way you won't bump your head while you're looking to open up your practice. What I like to do is introduce our colleagues here, my colleagues, my partners in the business. I like to we call it my ecosystem. I have Sanitra Walter on here as well as Robert Ortiz. And again, I am Jesse Burton, the commercial real estate agent. We're going to start off with saying who we are, a little quick bio, and then we'll go into the topic on informing you on what to do when you're looking to start your practice. Go ahead, Shanitra, our famous vehicle,
Can
y'all.
you
So
hear me?
we hear you now. You froze up. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. Good morning, all. As you mentioned, my name is Sanitra Walter. I am the healthcare lending specialist, financial specialist for the healthcare industry. I've been doing it here in Houston for the last 26 years. And like Jesse said, we are attached at the hip, and we do our best to make sure that we have uh, uh, come together to make sure that we make all of your practice needs and dreams come true in regards to owning a practice, regardless if it's purchasing a practice. We want to make sure that you're prepared financially and you go out there armed with information.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much, Shanitra. And Shanitra is actually she's actually in the vehicle. So if she comes in and out, please forgive us. We'll make sure
Yeah.
that you're able to get that one-on-one because she has some great information that you would need to know because she is the first stop. She is the first stop. I want everybody to know that I'm not your first stop or any
Right.
other realtor is not your first stop when it comes to this process. Shanitra, a lender, is your first stop so that way you can know your budget, what you're working with. If you sit up and come and tell me that you don't have a budget, I'm going to say you're lying because I'm going to send you back to a lender. Everybody has a budget. So
Right.
even when you're dealing with Robert Ortiz is the actual constructor. He's the contractor, and so Robert's going to ask you also what's your budget. And if you tell Rob you don't have one, he's going to say you're lying because your lender, if you're not buying this and doing this cash, you're going to have a budget that you have to stay within. So, Robert, you
Right.
want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Ortiz. I am with Anchored Constructors. We are a general contractor here in Houston. Our typical projects fit perfectly well within this space. We do a lot of projects in the healthcare vertical. We also do ground up and tenant improvement projects for retail centers, distribution centers, and of course, corporate interiors. So all of our past project experience fits perfectly with this vertical. Regarding me personally, I've been in the construction industry for well over 30 years and looking to keep going and wanting to reach out and help everyone that we can. And Jesse and Sanitra, I appreciate you guys inviting me and our company to join you guys today.
Oh yeah, no doubt, Robert. Thank you for joining us and being on this panel this morning. And so again, I'm Jesse Burton. I'm here on the commercial side, the person who helps identify the location, do all the studies, the demographics research to let you know what you're looking forward to, the population growth, the income of the individuals who are in a certain area, just kind of give you all the statistics that you need to know. A lot of times I deal with doctors, and they are sometimes afraid to um, go into an area that hasn't really, I would say, doesn't have that full population yet, but it's actually in the growth spurt. And so, one thing I try to do is share with them that, hey, don't go where everybody's at right away, because what's going to happen, you're going to find yourself paying more in dollar amounts when it comes to either your leasing or if you're looking to purchase, not unless it's a good deal. And then I also find individuals, when they get to the point where they're concerned with other doctors or dentists being within their radius, right? And so a lot of times you don't see the churches complaining about that. You almost see a church on every corner. You see a barber on every corner, or hair salon. So I understand that there's a lot of concern sometimes where you don't want to be as close to another um, practitioner who's doing the same thing you're doing. Sometimes that's not all bad, because depending on the population where you are, there's enough business for everybody. It's just really you need to be seen. You need to be visible. But I know that Shanicia and I have recently helped one of our young dentists who's going to be opening up a practice here soon, moving a location that is not so heavily populated, but they are going to have a growth spurt like none other here real soon. One reason is because she's not too far from a university that she graduated from, and she wanted to give back, which is awesome. But whenever you see a major anchor store, grocery chain coming in an area, not only just with their actual store, but with their warehouse, that is a great sign. Whenever you see rooftops being built, when I say rooftops, I'm talking about homes. When you see homes going up, and you can get there before those homes go up, that's a perfect opportunity for you. So don't always look for those areas where they're already kind of booming, the inner city. Look for some of the suburban areas that you can actually go into, because they're going to need you. And as they grow, so will you and your business. We've been able to help individuals. I know I've been able to help the individuals, put them in places where they haven't even used any marketing, and they got their numbers up like quickly. And so it's all about, doing the right research, going in with the right plan. And so my thing is, when I have an individual come to me, and the first thing I want to do, they ask me, Jesse, I'm looking to start my own practice. What do I need to do? Well, what I'm going to do is ask them, hey, what is your budget? And if I find out that they don't know what their budget is, um, I'm going to send them to Sanitra, so that way they can start working on that. And Sanitra, when individuals need to, they're looking to get started and want to know their budget, how much could they afford? What are some of the things that you're asking them to do at your initial, um, um, I would say your initial invite, your initial consultation?
Absolutely. So the best way I can put it is that there is a checklist that we go by just to assess your readiness. And the first thing we look at is your personal financial health. So your credit score should be over 680 for most major lenders. Ideally, it should be 700 plus, but a lot of them have a floor of 680 because we do know that there are a lot of student loans whenever you get to this place in your career, that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars still owed in student loans, and that usually bring down the score. So we take those things into consideration. No recent bankruptcies, foreclosures, or any major late payments. The student loans are current and in good standing. If your student loans are on forbearance, there needs to be some documentation as to what you're paying for how long. Sometimes, of course, they come up with a number according to what you make at that time. And it may be zero, it may be $100 a month, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you have documented proof of what your actual payment is, because if not, the lender has to go by 1% of what that student loan amount is. That's your payment amount. And usually sometimes that can blow up the deal. I had someone recently that literally blew up the deal with the cash flow. So we want to make sure that we are looking at your personal finances in that way, and making sure that your student loans are current as well. We're going to look at your debt to income. So of course, I would say until, if you know that you're going to want to own your own practice eventually one day, don't start buying the Beamers and the Benzes already and the Lambos and all that good stuff. Get a sensible car, because that car note can definitely keep you from getting your own practice. I've seen that happen too many times. I've had G-Wagons get in the way of practice ownerships. I've had Mercedes get in the way of practice ownerships. Yeah, house notes that are way too inflated get in the way of practice ownership. So make sure that if you know that you are going to go into practice ownership, that's a path that you want to take, that you keep that personal debt to income at a good percentage. So for us, it should be under 40%. Okay. So we want to make sure that as well that you have personal liquidity. That's very important. Not just your credit score, but we want to see your personal liquidity. You should have at least 3 to 6 months of your personal living expenses in a savings account. So as you're running the practice, growing the practice, using the money from the practice to do all those things, we want to make sure that you won't be able to pay yourself. So we want to make sure that you have a way to pay your own personal bills for at least 3 to 6 months. So that's important. We want to make sure that you understand your personal financing needs. So have you identified whether or not you want to do a, turnkey, an acquisition, if you're looking for a practice that's being sold, or if you want to build something up from the ground, or if you want to get into you want to lease some space, go into a shopping strip, that kind of thing. But we want to make sure that you have identified the type of practice that you're going to be purchasing and that you want to, or leave your options open. So if you don't know if it's going to be better for you to do an acquisition or actually, go in and build something, leave that option open. Always leave that option open for sure. Because sometimes it works out better for you to acquire a practice than it does for you to go in and deal with all of the building out. Unless you're like in a situation where Jesse was just mentioning the doctor that we just got completely set up. She's going into an area where there are no other dentists there now. It's brand new, it's booming, it's up and coming. So she had to go in and actually purchase at least 5 and do the tenant improvements to, have her practice. So just keep that in mind. As well, we want to make sure that you have an estimated total loan request amount. That's where I come in. So I take all of your current financials. It's also important that you have a business plan. Every single lender now requires for you to have a business plan with your projections. We have to lend to your projections. So the projections have to be, the first year have to be month to month in a pro forma format. I have a resource for you, if you don't have one, that's completely free of charge, that will help you build out your business plan, build out your projections and your pro forma, so you can make sure that we can lend to that amount. So whatever that amount is, because we can't lend to historicals, we're lending to your projections. So you don't, with the bank that I work with, you don't have to go SBA if you don't want to. Some people don't want to go SBA because they don't want to deal with all the SBA fees and packaging fees. For us, we don't go SBA for a brand new practice. We can actually do it for you conventionally. And if it's an acquisition, we can finance it 100%. Again, just keeping that in mind. But if you are building out, if you're doing construction, or if you're getting a lease space, you are going to be required to put 10% down to 20% down, depending on the lender. So make sure that you have that in reserves as well. That down payment amount is extremely important. But again, you don't want to go out there not armed with this information. Before you go talk to Jesse, before you go talk to Robert, you want to make sure that you talk to a lender like myself, so I can give you a number. And I usually come up with a very conservative number for you to go and say, Jesse, okay, I need to stay under 700,000. Normally, it's more than that, but I work in some contingencies just in case anything can happen. So we make sure that we give you a very conservative number to go give Jesse, so that way he can go start to look for a space that will give you enough room for the build out and also your furniture, your fixtures, your equipment, and some working capital.
Look, you said it all in a nutshell, and you did all that in one take. Look, that was some great information. I was gonna mention to you, but you covered it about individuals going out there and start making all these purchases, and they know they want to go and own their own practice one day. And what I find out is a lot of times you're not going to be able to get what you really want based on if you're going out here buying up all these toys before starting your business. That's not a good thing to do. So I'm saying similar to like buying your real estate. You have to be within a certain debt to income ratio.
Right.
And so if it takes you to taking that vehicle back, I had a doctor a few years ago. She wanted to start her practice. She started her practice. She took that big old that Mercedes. She had this nice Mercedes too. It was clean. But she knew what the end goal was. And she took the Mercedes back and started driving her vehicle that she had in college. And it was so admirable to see that because she knew what her end goal was, and now she's back to driving her luxury vehicle after being in business for about 5 years. So I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and so don't go out here and purchase these expensive homes. I mean, you could find a nice house at a certain price, right? It doesn't have to be your final home. It could be your starting home, your starter home, and your vehicle. You can have a nice vehicle without having to go out here and get the foreign right away, especially if you're doing this without a partner or significant other at home. It's even tougher on you. So don't make the situation as harder than what it really has to be. And so, thank you, Shanitra, for sharing that information.
Yeah,
We're gonna.
and really quickly, I want to make sure that I add this part as well. This is something that's very new to the industry. All lenders now require for you to have life insurance, disability insurance to protect the loan repayment in the event of your untimely death. All lenders are requiring this now. So if you are, just getting out of school, you still have to do 3 years in a private practice before the bank will consider you for a loan. This is any bank, but it's better to get the insurance in place while you're younger, because when you get older, it becomes more expensive. And usually your rate is locked in. So if you just graduated, say you're 32, 33, whatever, you know that eventually you want to go ahead and go into practice ownership, I would literally go and secure $1 million policy or a $500,000 policy as young as you can. So that way that rate is locked in. So that way you don't have to worry about when you're ready for practice ownership in 5 to 10 years or whenever, that rate won't be as high. So something for you to consider as well.
Look, that's awesome information. I had no idea that that was a requirement, and it's always great for individuals to do that, especially at a young age. We do know those rates get higher as we look. I think we are all at that. I don't want to say our ages now because look, we all just had these recent birthdays, and we in a certain club. I'm just gonna say we all in the club now. We catching up with you, Robert. Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, we got the 50 club. I'm proud of it. So
Right, right. Okay, there we go. So look, I'm happy with it too. We in that 50 club, and we know that all these policies get higher, and become more expensive the older you get. And so, if you know this is something you want to do, and that insurance policy is actually needed, start that insurance policy as early as possible because you can lock that rate in and keep it to where it's really a drop in the bucket for you at the end of the day instead of it turning to a car payment, if you waited later in age. And so again, Shanitra, thanks for sharing that information regarding the lending, regarding the qualification process, what y'all look for, the way you're able to help individuals build out a business plan, because we do realize not everyone knows how to build out a business plan and put those performers together. And so that is something that is really needed, because another thing is that one thing that the lender is going to also need when they're going to come back to me as the commercial agent or any commercial agent that you're using, and they're going to know what area you're looking in, and they're going to want to get some information on that particular location. They want to kind of look and see what that population study is, the demographic researchers in that area as well, because they trust you, but they're gonna protect their investment. So that's what I tell people all the time. Hey, that the lender is they're gonna look out for you, but they're gonna look out for themselves first, because they're the one who's coming off those funds that you're gonna be paying back. And so they're gonna do their excuse me, they're gonna do what's best for them as well. And so by them looking out for the lender, you're gonna fall up under that umbrella where they're gonna cover you as well, and so protect yourself. Robert, I wanted to come in here because we get to a point where I meet these individuals. Some, starting off a lot of times, if this is their first location, they're looking at either acquiring an acquisition, if it's the right price, or some of them are actually looking at a retail space where there is a build out that's going to be needed. There's I'm talking about a full build out to where a lot of times this may be a retail that is shell only. That the actual developer he or she came there, they built a shell of a space, which means that and I'll let you go into and talking about what a shell is and what you typically see, and then how you can actually help them move forward when they're going from a shell to a full build out.
Okay, okay. Well, Jesse, just like both you and Sanitra, we also have a preliminary checklist that we like to discuss on the first consultation with the client. Basically, simple 5 quick questions. The first one is obviously, are you working with a bank? Because that obviously sets up the tone for the project. As Sanitra mentioned, we need to know what are we working with. Obviously, everyone has great big dreams, and sometimes our budget doesn't allow those dreams. We just have to scale it back. So that's the main reason that we ask that question right up front. The next question to also help formulate the project is, when is your anticipated grand opening? The reason for that is so that we can help determine if they have a relatively short expected grand opening date, then that unfortunately that would probably ask us to start looking at a retail center, something that's already there so that we can build within an existing structure. If we have a little bit more flexibility as far as a grand opening date, now we can entertain a ground up construction project because of the additional timing that's required if we go that route. Obviously, the next one would be, do you already have some land that you're looking to develop? Or have you already identified a spot in a retail center that you want to develop? Again, this is helping us shape the overall project as a whole. And then, of course, do you have construction drawings? The reason that we ask that is if they already have some construction drawings, then obviously that tells us that they've already taken a few of the steps already. They've already have land, they already have a lease space, because that's what you need so that you could develop these drawings, because it's going to be an investment to the client to produce this type of documentation. If they do not have these drawings, then we can easily offer our services to provide the design for them as well, because that is a service that we provide to our clients as well. The last question that we ask is, what's your budget? And again, that seems like everyone's asking the same question. Again, to help guide us if a ground up construction project is within the realm of this project, or if we're having to look at exclusively a tenant improvement project. Either one, we're more than happy to help the client move forward under both of these scenarios. Now, some of the things that we look at when we're going to develop a property. For example, if the client is looking to purchase a tract of land, the first thing that we're going to ask is, do you have a survey? And the reason being is because we want to make sure that we can do a site plan for the client. So what this gives us is, number one, will the building, your development, will it fit on this property? The other thing is, will we be able to provide the required parking for your practice or whatever your development is? The next thing is, we'll take it to the next step and we'll go into providing some floor plans and building elevations. Now, why do we do that at such an early stage? Well, the reason being is because, again, we're building this project. And while it's going to be a small investment, we'd much rather do this now than go through, purchase a property, and then later find out, hey, we can't build on your land. So you just made this investment for nothing. So now this is why we take these extra steps to help make the client have the best decision for them. Now, the reason that we also go to the floor plan, building elevations, is so that we can take that number, come up with the construction budget for the project. Now, with this information, we can also give them what's called their design fees to design this actual development for them. Part of this preliminary investigation or analysis that we do, we're also looking for utilities that are available for the property to service it, sanitary sewer, water, and storm. As you know, here in the city of Houston and also in the Harris County, flood control is a big issue. Drainage, detention requirements is something that sometimes adversely affects, number one, the use of the property, and of course, the budget. So those are some things that we look at right out of the gate when we're doing a ground up development. Now, once we provide and produce a construction budget, we'll share that with the owner so that they can bring in their bank and say, hey, look, this is the number that we're working with. Are we still good? Can we proceed? Do we have a little bit of room to maybe make some of the upgrades that we're wanting to make, but we kind of held back on? That's where this conversation comes into play. And people like Sanitra can say, yes, we're good. Let's keep moving, or let's dial it back just a little bit. Or ultimately, Jesse, I'm sorry, this property doesn't work. Please help me find something else. Because unfortunately that happens. That happens. If let's take, for example, if we go to an existing space, essentially we're going to have the same conversations. We're going to be looking for a site plan so that within this development, we also check parking requirements. Again, that's a big issue for a lot of these developments. Sometimes you're not able to satisfy the parking requirements. Now, that's not necessarily going to say that that's going to kill the deal. There's some variances and some other options that we could look at. But these are just right off the top of the gate to some immediate roadblocks that you can typically hit. Now, if you're going, as I mentioned, into an existing lease space, what we like to do is ask for a floor plan of what was there. Or in Jesse, the scenario that you mentioned, a shell building. So a shell building is essentially 4 walls. A building that's there that was constructed and it's essentially just 4 walls. And it's up to the individual tenant to fill in the blanks, if you will.
Can you go
So
back and
they
say
were
that
built
again,
out.
Robert? I think my signal must have some kind of way. I don't know if it's on my end or your end. You kind of paused a little bit. Can you go
Okay, I'm
back?
sorry. Let me back up a little bit. So
Okay.
under the scenario that Jesse, that you had mentioned, a shell building,
Uh-huh.
essentially a shell building is 4 walls. And that's where the landlord stops. So now whenever you have the individual tenant, the dentist, optometrist, whatever the end user is, they essentially fill in the blanks within their 4 walls. If it's at least a shell building, that tells us there's obviously some preliminary developments already there. Electrical service, plumbing, and things like that that'll service the end use. If it's a retail center that there used to be something else other than what you want to put there, then one of the first things that we typically like to ask for is an asbestos report. Unfortunately, we have had some projects where we go in, we're looking to develop a location, and unfortunately, there's some asbestos that's found, which adversely affects your budget. Sometimes it could be something minimal that can be easily addressed, or it's something that turns out to be a little on the budget. So that's why some of the reasons that we ask for that information up front to kind of, again, let's keep this project in line and focus so that we make sure we're moving in the best interest of the client at the end of the day. So those are some pretty preliminary items that we look for whenever we go with the client to either a ground up construction scenario versus a tenant improvement project. Those are some pretty standard options.
Hey, that was some great information about that asbestos. Let me ask you this. Is there a certain age of the building that would eliminate the study or the testing for asbestos, or is that in all buildings if it's already constructed and
No,
something that you're renovating?
no, that's a perfect question. Excellent question. So essentially anything over from 80s and back. 80s is most of it's already gone, but we typically like to use the 80s as a benchmark and start looking from there. More of your recent stuff, the chances of you having it there are reduced. But either way, I would still do it just to protect the client at the end of the day. But anything beyond that or before the 80s, I would absolutely invest in that asbestos report.
Perfect. Okay, that's good information that you shared there, Robert. So a lot of times, what an individual might find themselves looking at something that could be, I would say, something that's already existing, but could be refurbished or renovated, and they may want to purchase it. You know, it may be an option to purchase this older facility because it's in an area now that is getting ready to kind of turn over. And so just be ready to have that budget in there for the asbestos testing. Um, and we heard Robert say it could be minimum, and then it could actually increase depending on the amount of asbestos that is found. And then if there's what's the process there, Robert? If there was some asbestos found in the at the location, what is your process is going in there and removing the material?
Sure, sure. So essentially, once we get their asbestos report, they will tell us exactly what material and where it was found. So we'd go to these independent contractors who specialize in asbestos abatement or lead abatement, whatever the case may be. Those are the two things that typically come back. So we would contract them, and then we would get a price so that the client, the end user, and the landlord can have a discussion of how we're going to pay for that, whether it's going to be lumped into the TI allotment or if the owner is going to be responsible for making that abatement up front, and then the tenant comes in and takes over from there. There's a million ways to do that, and obviously Jesse will be the best person who can help the client negotiate that out and determine, okay, how are we going to pay for this? And excuse me. So that's typically how we have seen that done. But our company does not do that because we're not have the certification to do asbestos abatement. We bring in a third party to do that for us, but it would be included in our scope of work.
Great, awesome. You know, thanks for sharing that. You know, a lot of times I don't think individuals think of that. And we said 1980. I was going to mention the lead. You pretty much close to that 1978
Right.
year time frame where you also have to test for lead as well. And so you want
Correct.
to make sure that you know you don't come in contact with those hazardous materials and able to do those abatement studies or removal at those locations. And yes, it comes down to me when I know we started off with me and I didn't really share with y'all about what we really do on this end when it comes to the real estate or the identification. Not just myself or any other realtors, right? And so we said something about doing a location and identifying a location and doing all of the research, right? But we didn't talk about the negotiation process. And so a lot of times there's negotiating that has to be done on behalf of the individuals, whether it's the term, the term amount, dollar per square feet, the we call it TI, which stands for tenant improvement, the tenant improvement allowance, which means that the how much of the dollar amount per square feet that we're gonna negotiate the landlord to come back and reimburse us on because the individual is able to use those reimbursements as capital, working capital. We know that it takes an investment to get these spaces up to your characteristics, your liking, the way you would need to have them look and show this the aesthetics, you know, because we know this is a place of healing for the most part. It's some type of care, beauty care, whether it's something for physical or cosmetic on the individual. And so a lot of times we want these spaces to be really nice. We want individuals to come in, or your clients to come in and feel comfortable, right? And so the best way for them to come in and feel comfortable is to have a nice space. And so we want to make sure that we come in and we're able to start negotiating the actual dollar amounts per square feet, the term, the longer the term. Just tell you this: the longer the term, the more we're able to try to negotiate on that off the dollar amount per square feet, and then as well as the tenant improvement on the amount that the landlord would actually reimburse you back for the improvement because you're making an improvement into somebody else's space, right? The
Right.
landlord, that's at the end of the day, it's if you're not buying this space, you're leasing it, this space doesn't really belong to you at the end of the day. It falls up under the ownership of the landlord. And so what you're really doing is you are improving the landlord's location, that actual space. I see Shanitra has her hand up. Shanitra, you got something you want to say in this case?
Yeah, just really quickly, something that you just mentioned just triggered this to remind people when you are doing lease space, you have to make sure that, so most loans are going to be for 10 years, 120 months. That lease space has to be able to be, the lease has to be for at least a 10-year loan. So if you know that you're not going to stay there for, a full 10 years, maybe you're going to do 5 years, you can do the 5-year lease, but you have to have the option to renew for an additional 5 years written in that lease in order for the lender to approve it. Just want to make sure I put that out there. You
Awesome,
can't do
awesome.
like a 2-3 year lease if there's a 10-year loan.
Oh yeah, that's great information. This is not a get in and get out type of process.
Right.
And so the lenders want to make sure that you are able to get there, get acclimated, and get in. I would say get into the community because you're going to be there for a while. This is a huge investment they're making in you, and so they also want to make sure they have a return on their investment. And so again. That's great information, Sanitra. The lenders are usually looking for a 10-year commitment, put it like that. They're usually looking for a 10-year commitment at that location to give yourself time to build up, to get your feet in um, greatly to where you start, being able to knock off that investment that the bank has made in this process. Um, there was something I was mentioning. I know I was talking about the tenant improvement reimbursement. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the the build out timing, right? And so if it's typically what we like to do. I like to kind of get an idea of some dates, right? Robert mentioned something about the dates. Oh, Robert got his hand up, so I don't want to go too far because Robert may have something to talk about while we were talking about that subject there. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, one other thing that when we're selecting a location, I also want to ask that the end user, the dentist, the medical practice, have them look at and I'm bringing this up because we had a medical practice that we helped develop, and we had a discussion with them, and one of their insurance carriers were asking that they should meet certain requirements as well as far as their logistics, specifically proximity to a bus stop for the demographic that was going to be serviced at that location. So certain small little things like that, like proximity to a bus stop, believe it or not, will have an impact on the end user's ability to be certified by United Healthcare, American, whatever insurance carrier that they're going to be accepting within the facility. So that's another key component that folks like us who have done these medical facilities, we know some of these minor details that may slip through the cracks inadvertently. But we can, whenever we work with the client, we also like to chime in and say, hey, I know this happened to us on another project, so let's make sure that we meet these certain criteria as well.
That's some great information, Robert. That's going to be, I would say, open for another discussion. I have a good friend of mine who owns a medical billing company, and you're right just about those carriers. Depending on your areas where you're actually going to do business, some carriers may offer something that others do not.
Right.
There's a certain dollar amount on our reimbursements, I believe reimbursements as well. That's some great information. I don't want to dig too deep into that because I don't know all the full details. But that is, if there's, if anyone would like to know more about that, we can definitely have a call and conversation about that. And I can have my good friend who is who's owned her business for over 30 years and does very, very well. Has doctors that she help out all over the US. And so that would be a great conversation to have regarding the carriers based on the location where you're actually practicing that. So thanks for bringing that up, Robert. That was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so like I was saying, I wanted to get back to we all talked about the time framing, right? There's two things that we always talk about. Questions we asked in the beginning: budget and time frame. Budget, you're dealing with, the lender for the most part. Again, we need to know that budget is gonna go back to the lender, and then a time frame as well, because now the contractor, Robert, or whoever you're using, they're gonna need to know their window of operating to try to have this location up for you. And your realtor needs to know that as well, right? Because we go in there and we negotiate a certain time from the start to the time that you're able to move forward. What I like to do particularly is have you put some time in there to where you're able to have that space open and ready. I would say about a month or two before you start making payments, because it allows you to get your feet up under you, get an idea of what you can expect, and then it gives you some wrap up time. There's nothing like having some time where you actually open, and let me say this too. When you open, typically I would say anywhere between maybe 15 to anywhere between 15 to maybe 45 days, that landlord is going to be sending you your reimbursement. We talked about that tenant improvement allowance. That's a significant amount of money that they're going to reimburse you to place back into your working capital. And so what I like to do is kind of help the doctor kind of get a gauge of time on what it's going to take the contractor to have this space ready, and then see if we can have you in there 30 to 60 days before you start making that initial payment, at least a full payment, so that way you can have have a little breathing room, because right, we know all this excitement is really, I would say your juices are flowing, you're excited, you're ready to get going, but at the same time you don't know what to expect yet, right? Because it's a new business, and a lot of times it takes a new business time to become visible and people know where you are. And so, while the contractors like Robert or whoever you're using, wherever you're located, they're doing their work, I'm going to advise you to start working on a marketing plan to start getting the word out. So that way, once you want to have a crowd of people waiting, you want to have your customer base ready and excited as well that you're coming in the area, and that they will be able to start patronizing your establishment. And so this is some great information. Thank y'all so much. Anything else y'all want to say here? Before we end this.
No, if you'd like, I can give a couple of target dates that we typically share with our clients as far as timelines for design and actual build out.
Yes, share that. Please share that. Share that.
Okay, so essentially, again, like I was mentioning, the two scenarios that we typically see, whether it be a ground up construction project or a tenant improvement project. And in general terms, some of the timelines are going to be the same as far as the design and permitting. Let's just use a recent project that we did. It was a 3,800 square foot pediatric clinic in the city of Houston. The drawings, the design took about 6 to 8 weeks for the design to get started and completed. After that timeline, the city of Houston for that specific project took right around 4.5, pushing 5 months to approve the permit. Once we received the permit, construction took right under 4 months, a little over 3.5 months to build that pediatric clinic. Now, what was involved in the clinic? Again, it was about 33 to 3,500 square feet. There was 6 exam rooms, a lab, break room, and we had 2 separate lobbies. One was a sick lobby, and the second was a well-person lobby. So those are the general scope of work that was included, but that also will help give you at least a generic timeline as far as design, permitting, and construction. Now, design, you can pretty much budget the 6 to 8 weeks. That's pretty standard. And the construction's about the same. 3 months, 90 to 115, 120 days should give you the actual construction. Now, unfortunately, depending on the jurisdiction, whether it be City of Houston, City of Pasadena, Harris County, etc., that unfortunately no one has any control over. That takes what it takes, unfortunately. I always tell our clients to, excuse me, to give us a minimum of 2 months. Now, within that 2 months, we'll be able to get a decent gauge to determine what is going to how much more time it's going to take to get us across the finish line to secure the permit for the construction project.
Thanks for sharing that, Robert. That's great information. I think a lot of times these individuals they come into this process and not realize some of those upfront timelines and regarding permitting and based on the jurisdiction, it could be longer than some others. You know, and you can have the contractor have a difficult time getting them to respond faster than I'm sure what there are some places in just in Houston and different counties that would move faster than the city of Houston does. And then there are some other counties that moves a lot slower. And so all that timing needs to be figured in into the process because again, that's also going to come back to where your agent, your realtor is going to have to make sure they're negotiating enough time to have these things done. Because like I said, one thing we don't want to do is have you move into a space or go into a space or start making payment on something that is not fully up and ready yet. We would like to give yourself that window to where the contractor is able to do their thing, get you up, get that COO, um, um, I would say received, stamped, and all of that, so that way you can actually open, and then preferably to be open, you know, like I said, 30, at least a minimum of 30 days before you have to start making payments, so that way you can get your feet up under you, kind of get an idea of what you're looking at, and you know, gathering your bearings for the most part. So thanks for sharing that timeline, Robert. That was some great information. Um, there was something I was going to say too, Robert. That now you talk about someone who's built 3,800 square feet space. That sounds like a doctor who's been practicing for some years. That's not typically anyone who's opening up their first location. They are within a certain square footage, right? It's you can almost cause sometimes we have to save people from themselves, right? So, you know, there's a certain amount of space that you need and a certain amount of space you don't need. And I can tell you now that if you are a dentist, there's you know, typically there's you're going to have room for a certain amount of operatories that you can have build out, but you may not need all of those build out right away, you know, because you have to stay within that budget. And Shanitra and Robert, they can also, like I said, the lender contractor, they could come back and save you from yourself and say, hey, you know, we can have this one over here ready, set up, but you don't have to fully completely build it out yet, because that's going to cost, you know, it's gonna cost more or take you more out of your budget. And you can wait, you know, maybe depending on how fast you're moving, you know, you may be able to get going and making a doing great very soon to where you know it may make sense for you to go ahead and get that ready within a few months. But in the meantime, starting off, you know, you don't have to have all those operatories ready to go. Shanique, you wanna share anything about, you know, any information on having a certain amount of operatories and kind of staying within budget because some individuals, again, you know, we have to save them from themselves. They're thinking
Right.
they have that full, you know, space built out and they really don't have to right away.
Right. No, you definitely don't have to, you know, have all of them built out right away, but we do like to see that you have the space to build out as you grow. So, you know, starting out with three, maybe four, really kind of depending on where you're going is kind of, you know, common, but don't try to build them all out at one time. But we do like to see that you have the space to grow if necessary.
Awesome. You got something you want to share about that, Robert?
Well, as far as the design, there's obviously some notes that we would have to put or place on the drawings so that when we come for our final inspections, when the inspector comes out, hey, these chairs were not developed, what happened? So you're not going to get your C of O. We clearly have to define this is phase one within these limits so that we can, at the end of the day, give the client their certificate of occupancy or the other form that's used is the certificate of compliance. Those are typically issued for the county. That's what you get with the county. But at the end of the day, obviously, in order for the client to open and to conduct business, that's the certificate that they need. So we could build a floor plan that can be done in phases so that everyone involved knows what's coming next. But we just have to clearly define this is step one so that we can officially close the project out and they can then grow into the space once they're ready.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's some information that I felt like was very important for individuals to know going in. And we typically see this more with dentists than I would say a medical doctor. The bills for in just say the professional is not as I would say expensive. We dentists has to come and they that are added to the space, oxygen and various other equipment that is needed for their practice. And so typically this particular approach we're talking about now about having these operatories build out over a phase would typically fall up under I would say a dental professional.
Mhm.
You know, am I right? Do y'all see the same?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And we've had to do that before, where some of the underground stuff, amenities have to be done now because it just makes more financial sense to do it now. We just don't purchase, or the clinic just doesn't purchase the dental chair now. That is what will be phased in later. And then we can separate it so where we get certification on these chairs only. And once the other chairs become live, then we just certify those additional chairs at that time. So there's definitely ways that we can phase the practice in.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Great information. Great information. My superheroes, I call y'all the Avengers, right? Uh got the Avengers here. Everybody who's needed. I think the only in any other individuals would be people that we're able to kind of go out to and have these other conversations over I would say separately, whether that's an equipment company, if there's if someone want to bring in their own interior decorator and designer, and even again a medical billing specialist, a company we're talking about maybe someone who deals with compliance, helping individuals get all of their carriers lined up. Those are individuals we can talk to and have this discussion at another date and time. But for the most part, getting started, you've spoken with us, you've spoken to a commercial real estate agent, you've spoken to a lender, commercial lender that specializes in healthcare financing, and you spoke to Robert, who's an actual contractor who's done anything from build from ground up to doing, I would say, to doing build outs. And so we was able to, again, provide all of this helpful information, especially if you're looking to start your own practice. We know that, where the industry is going now, that there's going to be more individuals looking to start their own practice just because of the need and some of the things that are going on with some of the certain hospital systems or these corporate dental practices. Not everybody want to continue to be an associate,
Right.
some want to come out and start, start the journey of being a entrepreneur and a business owner. And so we wanted to make sure that we provided this information to help you on your way, get you started and keep you from bumping your head, because we do know that you are in a unique place. We know that sometimes individuals don't always reach out for help and they don't know where to start. And so we wanted to give you a great foundation of where to kind of give you that launching pad to get you off on the right foot. Again, I want to thank Robert Ortiz with Anchor Constructors for joining us today. I want to thank Sanitra Walter, her new last name here. Right. Congratulations again
Thank you.
on the nuptials, the recent nuptials.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much.
thank you for joining us. We understand
Of
that you had an
course.
emergency, and still thank you for joining us this morning. And we're going to make sure that this information gets out to the masses because it's really needed. And we want these individuals to know that we're here to assist them, right? We're not here to take advantage I'm
Right.
sure if just like myself, I'm sure y'all get the same questions when people are in the process of they may already be in the process, right? And there's nothing we can do because they're already working with these individuals and
Right.
us, and the only thing we can do is kind of, we say a prayer for you, and so
Right.
we want to be able to share this information from the start. And because there are individuals out there that will take advantage of you. It's
Mhm.
unfortunate, but we're here to help you. We're here to,
Mhm.
to hold your hand through this process. It's a lengthy journey. And then once you even open, we don't leave. We're still here because this is like family. And so again, thank y'all again for taking your time out on this day, and we're gonna make sure again that we're gonna do this again soon. We're gonna talk about some other topics, right? This is starting your
Yes.
practice, but we'll send out some type of survey and get an idea of what individuals want to know and want to learn more of, and then we'll come back, and so be on the lookout for us to come back to you again with some more information. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you around soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You guys have a great day.